Okay, good morning, grade 5. Today, inshallah, we'll take lesson 5, page 915, classify quadrilaterals. Classify quadrilaterals. It is on page, not 915, guys, 929, sorry. It is 929. Open your books there. Lesson 5, page 925, classify quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals. Prepare your books, guys. Yes, Ghassan.
No, sir, I only want to answer.
Answer what, Yabni? I just start.
When we start.
Okay, remove your hand for now. Just focus to understand first. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Let's start together. Now we are on lesson 5, page 929. Classify quadrilaterals. Classify quadrilaterals, lesson 5. Okay? Now, in the quadrilaterals, guys, before in the previous lesson, we classified the triangles. Remember? We did classifying for triangles. We said triangles has two names. The triangle has two names, a name for the sides and a name for the angles, right? In the sides, we have three names, either scalene or isosceles or quadrilateral, equilateral, okay? In the angles, acute triangle, obtuse triangle, or right triangle. Now, it's scalene if we have three different sides lengths, isosceles if we have two similar sides lengths, and equilateral if we have three equally sides lengths. Acute triangle if we have three acute angles inside. Obtuse triangle if we have one obtuse angle inside and two acute angles. Right triangle if we have one right angle with two acute angles. This were for triangles. Now today, and the triangle means the three sides, but what is the quadrilateral? Quadrilateral, it's any polygon with four sides. Any polygon with four sides. So a quadrilateral means a quadrilateral. What's the quadrilateral? Any, not square, rectangle, no, any polygon with four sides. Any polygon with four sides, we call it quadrilateral. What are the types of a quadrilateral? So any polygon with four sides, like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a quadrilateral. Any polygon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Any quadrilateral, any sides or any polygon with four sides, we call it quadrilateral. How about the rectangle? Quadrilateral. Square, quadrilateral. Trapezoid, quadrilateral. Parallelogram, quadrilateral. So any polygon with four sides, we call it quadrilateral. Good. Now, what are the classifications of a quadrilateral? Before I, yes, Kinan. Yes, Yabni. Yes, Habibi. Naam. Kinan, Barakat, put your hand.
No.
Yes.
When you say what's a quadrilateral, I think I need to answer.
Okay, what is the quadrilateral, Kinan?
It's any polygon with four sides.
Thank you, Kinan. Focus with me now, please. Okay, guys. Any polygon with four sides, we call it quadrilateral. This is done. What are the classifications of the quadrilateral? In general, and I want you to take a look to the first page in your lesson here, guys. Everything is written here. I want you to study this page very well. Okay, guys? Again, in your book, page 929, these are the classifications of the quadrilateral. I want you to study and revise and memorize this page very well. Don't forget that, okay? Now, look here, guys. Here, any quadrilateral, okay? Any quadrilateral. The quadrilaterals can be two figures with special names, either parallelograms or trapezoid. Parallelograms or trapezoid. And focus with me on the board now. So here, guys, the quadrilateral in our classification, we have a lot of quadrilaterals, but here we will talk about two types. Two types. Parallelograms, parallelograms, and trapezoids. Trapezoids. Parallelogram and trapezoid. In general, in our classification, we have two figures for the quadrilateral, either parallelogram or trapezoid. Focus. Before I talk about these two figures, what is the parallel lines? What's the meaning of parallel lines? Parallel lines means lines like this one. These two lines, we call them parallel lines, means opposite for each other. If you extend the lines, they won't intersect, they won't meet, still have distance, the same distance between them. These we call them parallel lines. But how about these two lines? Look here. If we extend the lines, they will meet. See, they will meet. These are not parallel lines, but these are parallel lines. Okay, like here, guys, for the board. See the board? This line here and this line up, we call them parallel lines. Parallel, opposite for each other. They won't meet if you extend the lines. And this line here and this line for the board, these two lines, this line and this line, we call them parallel lines. This line and this line, we call them parallel lines. Now this line and this line, we call them pair of opposite parallel lines. This line and this line, we call them pair of opposite parallel lines. This line here and this line here, we call them pair of opposite parallel lines. In the parallelogram, we have two pairs of opposite parallel lines. Look here. This we call it parallelogram. This line with this line are parallel. This line with this line are parallel. In the trapezoid, we have only one pair of parallel lines. Look. This line and this line are parallel, but these two lines are not parallel because if you extend them, they will meet in some point up, right? So this is, we call it parallelogram. This one, we call it trapezoid. Trapezoid, okay? Now the parallelograms has another special figures. Three special figures. We have rectangle. We know the rectangle. We have square. And we have rhombus. Rectangle, square, rhombus are all parallelograms. Okay, special cases from the parallelograms. The trapezoid, only trapezoid, no others. But the parallelogram has three figures. Rectangles, special figures. Rectangles, square, rhombus. Means the rectangle is a parallelogram. Why? Because in the rectangle, we know the rectangle. Look here. In the rectangle, we have two opposite parallel lines. This line parallel with this line, and this line parallel with this line. But what's the difference? That the four angles are right angles. This is the rectangle. So it is parallelogram. The square, we know the square. The four sides are equal with four right angles. It's regular polygon, remember? This side parallel to this side, and this side also parallel to this side. In the rhombus, we have 4 equally sides also, but no right angles inside. It's similar to the square, but no right angle. And this line parallel to this line, and this line parallel to this line. So these are the figures which are in your book. Now in your book, we have some empty places. We will fill them together, okay? Now let's read together, guys, and let's fill the empty places here in the book so you understand it very well. The quadrilateral, this is a trapezoid. What they wrote under the trapezoid, quadrilateral with exactly one pair of opposite sides is parallel. So fill it with 1. This is the trapezoid. We have 1 pair. Pair means 2. Line with line. Only these 2 lines, 1 pair of opposite sides. But these 2 pairs are not parallel. This pair of 2 lines are parallel, okay? This we call it a trapezoid. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of opposite sides parallel, okay? So fill it with 1. On the other side, we have this one, we call it parallelograms. What is the parallelograms? A quadrilateral with opposite sides, congruent and what? And what? Parallel. So fill it with parallel. Congruent and parallel. So in the parallelogram, this side equal to this side and parallel. This side equal to this side and parallel. This side with this side, we call them opposite pair of lines. Congruent means the same length and parallel. This side with this side, opposite pair of lines, congruent and parallel. So let's read the parallelogram again. A quadrilateral with opposite sides, congruent and what? Parallel. Right parallel. Now, in the parallelograms, as I said, we have three what? Special figures. Let's start with the what? Rectangle on the left. What is the rectangle? It is a parallelogram with 4 right angles. We have 4 right angles, right? So here 4. What is the square? Parallelogram with 4 sides congruent and 4 right angles also. What's the rhombus? Parallelogram with 4 sides congruent. There is no right angles inside. So fill the places, guys. Here 1, here parallel, here 4, 4, 4, 4. And memorize them very well. Memorize them very well, okay? So in general, the quadrilateral, either trapezoid or parallelogram or others. If we have 1 pair of parallel lines, we call it trapezoid. If we have 2 pair of opposite parallel lines, we call it parallelogram. In the parallelogram, we have 3 special cases: rectangle, square, rhombus. Rectangle, it is a parallelogram, means 2 opposite sides with parallel lines and 4 right angles. Square, 4 right angles, 4 sides are congruent. Rhombus, 4 sides are congruent, but all of them are what? Parallelograms. Means the rectangle is a parallelogram, the square is a parallelogram, the rhombus is a parallelogram, but the trapezoid, no, it is not a parallelogram, it is special case for itself, okay? Now down here, we have some idea here. A square has all the attributes of a rectangle, and attributes means properties. Properties means, look at the square. The square has 4 equal sides. Also, the rhombus has 4 equal sides. The square has 4 angles are right. Also, the rectangle has 4 angles are right. So, if we put the rhombus and the rectangle together, we have what? The square. So the square has has all the attributes of a rectangle and a rhombus. Okay, this is the idea of your lesson here. All of it, it is about here. Okay, guys. Now let's go to our exercises. Let's solve them quickly. Question 1. Who can read with me? Yalla. Question 1. Omar Samir, read.
Yes.
Describe يا ابني. يلا.
Describe the
Attributes.
attributes of the quadrilateral below than classify.
The quadrilateral based on the attributes. Attributes again, the properties. Okay. Yalla.
Okay.
Look what we have here. How many sides we have?
4.
4 sides. And 4 right angles, right? What we call this?
Rectangle.
We call it rectangle. And the rectangle is what? Is a parallelogram. Okay.
Yes.
So let's read together and fill the spaces. The opposite sides of the quadrilateral are what? Are congruent, right?
Yes.
So this side equal to this side and this side equal to this side. And what also?
Parallel.
So parallel. These sides, what's the meaning of parallel sides? Means side and side, and they won't meet, they won't intersect. But side and side, these are not parallel. These 2 lines are parallel, okay? So here, the opposite sides of the quadrilateral are congruent and what?
And parallel.
Type. Parallel. Now, there are how many right angles?
5. 4.
ركز يا ابني. 4 right angles. So fill it with 4, guys. So the quadrilateral is a rectangle. So fill it, guys. Congruent, parallel, 4 rectangle. Quickly. Yeah. The second one here. Okay. See, we have figures. All of them are the same with different colors. The quadrilateral has 4 congruent sides, right? Opposite sides are parallel. Do we have inside right angles? No. So what we call it, guys? Who can tell me? Rhombus. So the second question, 4 or parallel or rhombus? Copy, guys, please. Copy, please. Now let's move to page 931 and do these questions together. Yeah, question 3. Ghassan, read.
Yes, Mr. Question 3.
Yeah, read the question.
Describe the attributes of each quadrilateral, then classify the quadrilateral.
So question 3, see it? See the graph? Right.
Yeah.
What we call this?
It is parallelogram.
It is parallelogram. Good. How about the opposite sides? This side with this side, is it parallel?
Yeah.
Is it congruent?
Yeah.
How about this side with this side? Parallel?
Yeah.
Congruent?
Yes, also.
Now, in the parallelogram, if we have opposite sides, parallel and congruent, we call it parallelogram. How many sides here we have?
4.
4. So we call it in general a quadrilateral, but its special name is what? Parallelogram. Okay. So
Yeah.
what we will write here? Yeah, opposite sides. Write down, guys, in the lines down. Opposite sides are what? Yeah.
Congruent.
Aywa, and are congruent أيوة are congruent and parallel. Opposite sides are congruent and parallel. So we call it what?
quadrilateral
No, it's a
or
special name.
parallelogram.
Parallelogram. So we call it parallelogram. Do we have right angles inside? No.
No.
Do we have equal sides, so we call it rectangle or square or rhombus? No. So in general, we have two opposite sides. Parallel are congruent only, so we call it what? Parallelogram. This is a question 3. Do you understand it, Yabni?
Yeah.
Yalla. This is question 3, guys. Question 4. Question 4. Yalla. After Ghassan, we have Abdullah Ihab.
Yes, mister.
Yalla, read Yabni question 4. What we have in question 4? Tell me.
Rhombus.
Okay. Now in the rhombus here, what are the properties here? We have 4 sides. مالهم هذول?
Congruent. All of them congruent.
All the sides are congruent. Good. And the opposite sides are parallel or not parallel?
Are parallel. They are
So,
parallel.
in question 4, guys, we have something like this, but see the graph in your book is better, okay? Now, the 4 sides are congruent. So, all sides are congruent and all sides are congruent and opposite sides are parallel. This side parallel with this side parallel with this side. And opposite sides are parallel. So what we call it, Ya Abdullah? What we call this figure?
Rhombus.
Rhombus. Rhombus. So in question 4, we have 4 congruent sides, but here we don't have 4 congruent sides. Here each opposite sides are congruent. Here the 4 sides are congruent. But if we have 4 right angles here, it becomes square. But we don't have 4 right angles. We have only 4 sides congruent and each 2 opposite sides are parallel. At this case, we call it rhombus. Copy, guys. This is question 3 and 4. Let's do question 5 now. Question 5. Ziyad.
Yeah, mister. Question
Yalla,
5,
Ziyad.
circle the
Do you
quadrilateral.
understand these questions, yeah, Mister? 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Good. Yalla. Question 5. What we have? Let's read.
Circle the quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of a parallelogram.
So we have 4 quadrilateral, rectangle, rhombus, square with trapezoid, right?
Yeah.
What are the quadrilaterals that have the same attributes of a parallelogram? Means the same properties of the parallelogram. What are they?
Rectangle and
Aywa.
square.
And
Square.
only?
Yeah.
No, and the rhombus also, it's with them. The rhombus,
Okay.
the opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So the rhombus and the square and the rectangle, the 3 quadrilaterals all have the same attributes of the parallelogram. But the trapezoid, no. Who can tell me what is the difference, between the parallelogram and the trapezoid? What is the difference? ليش الترابيزويد not parallelogram? Jalal, why? جلال. طيب. كنان عصام.
Yes, Mister, because in
Why the trapezoid is not belong to the parallelograms? These are the parallelograms. Why the trapezoid not belong to them?
because the trapezoid sides are the ones in the right and left are not parallel. They will touch at point.
So here we have the opposite sides are what? Parallel. This side with this side and this side with this side parallel. But here, this side and this side, if you continue both of them, they will meet. And this side and this side parallel. So in the trapezoid, we have only one pair of parallel sides. In the parallelograms, the two pairs are parallel. That's why the trapezoid is not a parallelogram. So what is the answer of this question? You put square on the rectangle, rhombus, and the square only. Got it? The trapezoid has not a parallelogram. Question 6. Kinan. Barakat.
Yes, Mister.
Yalla read. Do you understand, ya Kinan?
Yes.
Yalla read question 6.
Circle the quadrilaterals that have all the attributes of the rhombus.
Hello. Now the rhombus, what is the rhombus? 4 congruent sides and each opposite sides are parallel, right?
Yes.
Which one has the same thing of the rhombus?
Square.
The square for equally sides and each opposite sides are equal, parallel and congruent. So the square is what has the same attributes of the rhombus, okay? So here, guys, what we select? The square, okay? The rectangle is not, because we have different size. The trapezoid is not. We don't have parallel congruent size two pairs. The parallelogram is not. We don't have 4 equally sides. But in the square only, we have 4 equally sides with opposite pair parallel sides. So in question 5, we circle the rectangle, the rhombus, the square. In question 6, we circle the square only. Okay? Question 7. Question 7. Jalal again.
Yes, yes.
يلا read يا ابني question 7.
7. All parallelograms have opposite sides, congruent and parallel. Since rectangles are parallelograms, all rectangles have opposite sides, congruent and parallel.
Good. Is this true or false?
True.
True. All parallelograms, good boy. All parallelograms, guys, okay, have opposite sides, congruent and parallel. Since rectangles are parallelograms, or rectangles have opposite sides, congruent and parallel. Any rectangle, this board, guys, here, this one is rectangle. This board here is a clear rectangle. Opposite sides are congruent and parallel, right? This one with this one, this side with this side. So question 7 is true. Write it true. True. Question 8. Muhammad.
Yes, Mr.
Yalla read the question 8.
Also have 4 congruent sides.
All squares have 4 congruent sides. Good. Continue.
Since rectangle are square, all
Best.
rectangle.
Best. Are the rectangle, is the rectangle square?
No,
No. Why?
because the rectangle is bigger than the square.
Bigger?
No, taller.
What? Why the rectangle is not square? Do you know why the rectangle is not square?
No.
Because in the rectangle, in the square, we have 4 sides equal. In the rectangle, we have 4 sides congruent.
No.
No, we have length, width. Opposite sides are congruent, not the 4 sides. If we have 4 sides congruent in the rectangle, it becomes what? Square, but they are different. So the rectangle is not a square. Got it? So is this statement correct or true, false or true?
False, false.
It is false because the rectangles are not square. So what we write here, false. Why? Look, guys, because a rectangle is not necessarily a square, because rectangle do not have to have 4 congruent sides. Okay, so this one false and this one true. This is your lesson, guys. Again, study this page very well. Study it very well. Okay, now that's all for today, guys. And do your homework. Try to do your homework, and I will send the exercises or the answers of all of these pages, guys, in your inbox after a while. So if you don't know, if you don't have time to fill it, just fill it later as you want. That's all for today. Thank you so much and have a good day. Do your homework, guys. Don't forget. Goodbye.